Any natural salt will have a small bit of iodine in it, but yeah, like table salt is stripped of basically all the other minerals, so you're pretty much just getting sodium and chloride. We don't recommend using just table salt, but you can also have any natural salt that is iodized. Iodine deficiency is one of the more recognizable deficiencies. In fact, it was the very first mass fortification. It was the very first nutrient that was added massively into foods because it was well recognized 100 years ago that this was a huge problem. But this is basically only a problem with processed food eaters. So people who eat a lot of processed foods are going to be short in iodine. But if you're eating meat and eggs, especially seafoods, then you're going to be getting enough iodine. And again, if you use natural salts, you're going to be getting a little bit more. Pregnancy itself lowers the immune system for modern women because modern women are already nutrient deficient before they get pregnant. In the wild, in the primitive environments, they beef women up before they get married off, basically. And sometimes that can be taken to the point of cruelty, actually. In several African countries, women are beefed up basically to the point of torture. They're like kept in a hut and just fed food and food and food until they get nice and husky. But very generally, the more moderate version of that is, for women to start to beef up in their pregnancy years, especially as they're giving birth. They don't pay attention to like keeping their figure and stuff. Like women are in the modern world are concerned about that. My point is here that even in the primitive world, they don't know what vitamins and minerals are, but they understand that having a higher body weight means a healthier pregnancy and a healthier woman during the pregnancy and after the pregnancy. Now, those primitive people are getting a lot of nutrients in their food, so that's the thing. They're putting more nutrients into the woman before, during, and after pregnancy to support the pregnancy itself, to support the milk. And why? Why would pregnancy lower the immune system of a woman? Because you're building a human being inside of you. We're already nutrient deficient in this environment. If you grow up in Canada, US, whatever you eat from the grocery store, you're guaranteed deficient in multiple nutrients. So you're already deficient, now you're trying to build a human being. The human being requires nutrients, the baby requires nutrients. The baby will steal nutrients from you as well. And if you're already deficient, again, now you're tipping into the extreme deficiency range. This is why all kinds of problems happen after pregnancy. It's not just postpartum depression that's a problem, it's postpartum diabetes that's a problem, postpartum osteoporosis that's a problem. All of these are nutrient deficiencies, and your immune system is dependent on these same nutrients. So pregnancy is the single biggest stressor, nutritional stressor that the average woman is going to experience. It's got nothing to do with the C-section. The C-section itself isn't good, but it's nowhere near the same pressure as building a baby. And again, now you've had the child, now you're lactating, you're producing more nutrients. Your body is producing this stuff that's not meant for you. It's taking nutrients from the rest of your body in order to do that, whether or not you're breastfeeding. So our general advice is the same for anybody, but a pregnant woman should go further. A pregnant woman should take more nutrients. As she gains weight, she should have more nutrients. That's what they do in the primitive world. That's what we should do here. And you should not be worrying about your figure until years after this. So you can message us for a protocol, by the way. If you're not on the program yet, you can message us. We'll make sure there's nothing weird on your list. We're probably just going to recommend getting off the bad foods, getting on the 90 essential nutrients, again, appropriate to your body weight, whatever it is right now. Eyesight deterioration is caused by the same thing as pretty much any other tissue degeneration. It's eating the bad foods and nutrient deficiencies. Your body needs nutrients in order to rebuild all of its tissues. And if your eyes have gotten worse since birth, that's degeneration. Someone else asked about cataracts today, and rather than answer that twice, it's the same thing. Cataracts, glaucoma, any of these, if you need reading glasses that you didn't used to need, this is nutritional degeneration. So it's probably going to be the same advice. You can message us, but anyone can message us. But we're going to recommend get off the bad foods because the bad foods damage the tissues, and the glutens, the first things on the list, prevent the absorption of nutrients. And then there's the generalized nutrient deficiency in our food system. If you eat from the grocery store, you're deficient. It's impossible to get enough nutrients from any diet in the modern world. It has to have more nutrients added in, and they only do that in the primitive lifestyle. And by the way, most of those nutrients that are known to support eye health, and those are like standard claims that you'll read on at the grocery store, you go and see this is a product that supports eye health. Those are antioxidant nutrients, because oxidative damage is a primary cause of damage in our body. Other than the glutens, everything else that's on our list is there because of oxidative damage. Oxygen particles that are unstable. They're missing an electron or they have an extra electron, so they're trying to bond. Oxygen always wants to bond with stuff. So when we have these free radicals in excess in our body, it causes damage. It tries to bond with our tissue, and it damages the inside of veins, Eyes full of little tiny veins, right? It'll damage any tissue, but it hits the veins first. Hits the veins first because these particles enter into the veins first. So after a lot of damage, you'll start to have other things show up like age, spots, and whatnot. Other tissue damage that's not directly in the veins comes later. But anyways, this is why we need antioxidants. And many of the essential nutrients are themselves antioxidants. Zinc, selenium, vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin E, etc. These are nutrients that neutralize these free radical particles. And if you do message us and you get a protocol, what I'll probably recommend is one of our products that have extra high antioxidants rather than a specific eye support product. Basically meaning we would be giving you the baseline 90 essential nutrients, but in a form that has a lot more antioxidants. And by the way, for those of you who are already on the program and in the know, to me this means using Tangy Tangerine tablets instead of the powder, because the tablets have a much, much, much higher antioxidant count. They have more than the primitive people could possibly get. And again, why do we need more than the primitive people? Because we have more exposure to these free radical particles, not just from our foods, processed foods, all processed foods, also from the exhaust, from cars and industrial activity and all this stuff. Try to stay away from politics on this account, guys. But in my opinion, this is normal. This is normal. 2020, nothing really changed. It just became more obvious. All of this was already happening. The control system, all this stuff was already there. So if normal means better, when is it going to get better? When more people wake up, when more people stop supporting the politicians, supporting these big giant companies that are screwing with us, supporting the World Economic Forum, supporting bogus climate lockdowns and such. And basically this starts with information. The only reason I even answered this question on here because this links to health as well. How are we beginning to make the world a better place? By becoming aware that our health is our responsibility, not the responsibility of the government. It's one of the main things that has kept us down. The second part of this question is, if you can't afford the more complex products, can you start with minerals and EFAs? The answer is yes, absolutely. The minerals are the baseline. I'll put the link in there for the plain minerals. Those are also the baseline for anybody who has any problem with any other ingredients. And the minerals are not all 90, but they are the main game changer. Those minerals are also in all of our other products. That's what makes those other products special. That's what we bring to the table that, the regular average company doesn't. The minerals is 60 of the 90 essential nutrients. And again, that's what's missing from the food supply. This is the biggest part of our message. If you really want to, you can eat clean. You can eat fruits and vegetables and whatnot and get your vitamins and amino acids and even your omegas. But you can't get minerals in the food. There's just not enough minerals in the food, point blank, period. And that's why those minerals are so valuable. It's always been the foundation of this whole company, of everything that we do, of Dr. Wallach's message. Those minerals are the foundation. Turmeric is an antioxidant, but it's not an essential nutrient. As mentioned earlier, many of the essential nutrients are antioxidants, but there are also other plant compounds that are also antioxidants. Turmeric is one of them, quercetin, coenzyme Q10. So in this case, it's actually quantity that matters most. In the wild, they tend to get around 50,000 ORAC points, oxygen reactive absorption capacity, ORAC. We're recommending 100,000. And sometimes people get weirded out by this answer. They say, what's the best antioxidant or something like that? Take away the essential nutrients. Other than that, I don't really care. It only matters that you add up to a lot of antioxidants, basically. So you could use turmeric for that. It's going to have a little bit of an anti-inflammatory effect as well. I find that a lot of people who use turmeric, though, they overdo it. They're taking 20 capsules of turmeric a day, like they're making their own capsules, 20 of them a day. That's too much. You're leaning on the medicine too hard, especially if you're using it to combat inflammation. You really want to identify the source of the inflammation. It's probably caused by eating the bad foods that we recommend everyone getting off, and or the nutrient deficiencies that are more widespread. So you want to make sure the nutrient deficiencies are covered first and foremost. Then once that's covered, you've eliminated the major sources of inflammation in food, and then you've taken the 90 essential nutrients at baseline. You can add up the other ORAC points any way you want. You could use muscadine grape extract, all kinds of different plants. Well, that's very unfortunate, because our recommendation, if someone is about to get their appendix taken out, if it hasn't burst yet, if it's burst, you have to take it out. It's a medical emergency. You can die of belly infection, basically. So if it's burst, you do have to take it out. But for most people, it hasn't burst before they take it out. They go into the hospital with pain, and the doctors say, your appendix is inflamed. You got to take this out. Our recommendation is just to stop eating food. By the way, it's extremely simple to get rid of the inflammation. You basically just fast until the inflammation goes down. You could have liquid meals, you could have juices, you could have bone broth. It's probably gluten that's causing the inflammation, by the way, so you're not going to get gluten in juices or bone broth or liquid food, really. But point is, if you just stop eating the thing that's inflaming it, within a matter of days, the pain should go away and the inflammation should go away. You might be a bit miserable for a few days, but I'm only saying this in case anybody knows anybody that's ever going to get it taken out. You can stop that by just fasting. You don't need to buy products to stop the inflammation, and products take either a few days or a week or maybe even more to get delivered. So that's not the answer. The answer is to stop the inflammation by stopping the source, by stopping the foods that are causing the inflammation, and it's most likely gluten. Anyways, what do you do now? Well, the appendix was part of the immune system. So what we recommend, unfortunately, because you can't regrow an appendix and we can't put it back in, we can't undo this tragedy that's happened, we recommend extra probiotics and extra antioxidants for life. So we recommend already that the average person should be serious and be aiming for that 100,000 ORAC points per day, which, by the way, is totally possible, and it's not that expensive to do, really. It's like, even in our regular products, as I already mentioned, switch to the tablets, you'll get that 120,000. But that's what they should do. The appendix was a storehouse of good bacteria, so now you should be extra serious about consuming probiotics daily if possible, but definitely within your regular regimen, you want to be consuming a ton of probiotics. And you should be going as hard as possible on antioxidants as well. Of course, you want to have the 90 essential nutrients to be healthy and all that anyways, but the primary problem here is now they're not storing as much probiotics. Probiotics are a huge part of the immune system, that digestive system, so you need to keep putting them in now. And the probiotic part doesn't necessarily need to be in product form, so they should definitely be finding foods that have probiotics in them and finding ones that they like and eating them all the time. That should be part of your regular diet all the time now. And of course, since gluten is the most likely thing to have caused the inflammation in the first place, this tells us, or it tells you, that you have a serious gluten intolerance. So therefore, we're already recommending being completely gluten-free, but you need to be 100% serious about it. Obviously, you're very sensitive to it. Be very careful. The word granola is usually made from oats. Oats are technically gluten-free, but the proteins that are in oats are just as bad or worse. That's why oats are on our list. We say wheat, barley, rye, and oats. For the first 4 things everyone should remove forever. Now, other than that, your main sources of the problem have been removed if you just get rid of wheat, barley, rye, and oats. But anything that's baked is going to have more free radicals than it would otherwise. So rice that's not baked is going to have less free radicals. But anytime you turn any of these things into a bread or a cookie or something like that, it's more free radicals are being produced. And this is more true the crispier it gets. So if you have nice soft cookies, which I prefer, there's less free radicals than the hard stuff. So pasta itself, especially made from rice, it's actually quite soft. It's not baked to the same degree, but things like crackers, right? Very hard. It's supposed to be hard. Therefore, it has more free radicals. Basically, baked goods should be kept to occasion. They should not be part of your daily regimen, no matter what, even gluten-free stuff. And gluten-free stuff in the grocery store is pretty much trash. It's pretty much junk food. It's also going to have oil, which is also free radicals. So you really, really have to read labels, and there are so few products out there on the shelf that don't have oil in it, really. So even if you are going to do something in a package, make sure it's a very, very rare occasion and you're not eating very much of it. But rice itself is okay. Let me repeat that. Rice itself is okay. Talk to celiacs and whatnot. They're okay with rice. We help people fix their digestion all the time. They can eat rice. Rice is not on our bad list. And there are some breads that are not actually bread. They're flourless breads. They're usually very expensive, by the way. You won't find them at the grocery store. You have to make them yourself. But like we've made some like out of cream cheese and stuff. They're very expensive, but there's way less problems involved. And these are basically keto breads. If you want to look for recipes, these are keto breads. And again, you might be shocked at the cost of the ingredients involved. But if you really, really want the bread in your daily life, that's a much better way to do it. Olive oil, if you make it yourself and you consume it quickly before it oxidizes, means within a matter of days, and you keep it in the fridge, it's going to be much better. It's still going to be a little bit of free radicals in it, but there's much less. The main contributors to the oxidation of oils, which is the problem, is time and heat. So the older it is and the more heat it's been exposed to, the worse off it is, the more oxidized it is, and eventually it's all going to be oxidized. So olives are fine, and there's oil in every tissue in nature, by the way. Every plant, every leaf, every seed, every meat, all meat. You can get oil out of anything. Some things are more oily than others, like olive is quite an oily food, but you can eat the olives, no problem. That oil that's in everything living is protected from oxidation by the living skin, peel, shell, whatever, and as soon as that's punctured, oxidation is now a factor. So just keep that in mind. If you make it fresh, there's not a problem. It's the skins of baked potatoes that are a problem, yes, because they weigh a lot, and when they're crispy, They have acrylamide in them, basically trans fatty acids is another form of free radicals, so it does a lot of damage. Go back to the beginning of the story to hear more about free radicals, but potato skins, when they're baked, are on the list because of free radicals. But raw potato skins are also toxic, by the way. If you eat raw potatoes and raw potato skins, you're going to have a problem, and you probably don't want to eat them anyways. They're gross. Other peels would make it onto our list, but nobody eats, other peels. Basically, potato skins are the main thing that people actually eat in our society, are like meat and potatoes. Well, if you're eating potato skins all the time, it's a big problem. They weigh a lot. Oxidation is quantitative. The quantity of oxidative particles, free radical particles, matters. Again, put it in your hand, a baked potato skin. It's hefty. It weighs a lot. It weighs more than the smoke of cigarettes, right? So it's worse than cigarettes. We made a post recently that claimed something like that, and people kind of freaked out. Well, smoke doesn't weigh very much. Smoke is bad. It does have free radicals, but smoke weighs almost nothing. So if you eat one baked potato skin, you're eating the equivalent of several cartons worth of cigarette smoke. Yeah, Dr. Wallach said in several videos that you want to eat like an Asian, if you're going to drink beer, you drink rice beer, that sort of thing. But no, soy sauce only has gluten in it because the industry sucks and they put gluten in stuff because it's cheaper. I mean, that's the main reason. That's got nothing to do with soy sauce itself. And you can buy gluten-free soy sauce. Again, the wheat in soy sauce is a totally unnecessary ingredient. It's probably more than one reason why they put it in there other than cheapness. But yeah, it's just cheap garbage. Just buy regular soy sauce without it. This question doesn't matter to me. Wine in general, to me, is one of the best ways to drink alcohol. If you're going to drink alcohol, wine is one of the least destructive. By the way, the other one I would call tequila, especially if you don't drink much. But yeah, if you switch from beer to wine, for example, and I know many people who switch from beer to wine, you're going to be way better off. I know so many people who switch from beer to wine and they just lost 20, 30, 50 pounds even just from doing that one thing, that one switch. But if you're talking about the antioxidants in it, the resveratrol, don't drink wine for antioxidants, is my opinion. If you don't drink, then don't drink, But if you already drink and you switch to red wine, now you're doing the least damaging form of drinking. So that's good that it's the least damaging, but I wouldn't drink wine for health reasons. That's crazy. And especially when the cost of antioxidants is so low. We just mentioned that one product, Tangy Tangerine tablets. We have other products, but that one, you take one tablet and you get 40,000 ORAC. We have other products that have the resveratrol in it in the same amount of like 300 glasses of wine, right? So you could take like one serving of a product that costs you less than $1 a day and get the equivalent of 300 glasses of wine of the antioxidant count. So yeah, just don't consider this a healthy thing, basically. And all red wine are basically equivalent. They're roughly the same. There's going to be some that are better, especially those made from the muscadine grape, but it's not necessary to think of it that way. Running out of slides here today, guys. Potassium is in all foods. Nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, NPK, that is fertilizer. That's what we put into all crops. So potassium deficiency is really not a problem in our society at all. Let me repeat that. Basically, everything that you eat has potassium in it, so we don't need to put potassium in our supplements. Same with iron, actually. You'll notice we have very little iron in our supplements because we don't believe supplemental iron is useful and there's enough in the foods. And by the way, people who are anemic are usually just salt deficient. They come to us, I tell them to drink salt. The anemia tends to go away because they're not absorbing the iron. That's the problem. It's not a lack of iron, it's that they're not absorbing the iron. Anyone can message for any more details on this or any other question, by the way. All right, guys, that's all I can get for today. I do appreciate you. I'm going to put the question sticker up on my personal account later today so we can do another Q&A there tomorrow. You can ask any questions there, health questions or any other questions, and anybody else can message us anytime. My newest book, Everything You Should Know About Healthy Blood Sugar, goes into a lot of detail about one of the most complicated things we get asked about, which is healthy blood sugar. This covers all of the blood sugar problems you know about, including type 1 and type 2 diabetes, and other problems you might not know were blood sugar problems, including behavioral problems, sleep problems, and cardiovascular problems. This book also goes into a lot of detail on digestion and how primitive people and animals actually acquire the nutrients that they need for healthy blood sugar in their natural environment. And definitely check out my book, Fake Diseases. It covers all of the major topics that come up, like birth defects, blood sugar problems, bone and joint problems, cancer, autoimmune problems, and more. And it's on Amazon for just $9.99. Definitely get yourself a copy of Dr. Wallach's cookbook. This is basically a textbook about how to cook without the bad foods, particularly oil and gluten, This is 300 pages stuffed full of recipes without the bad foods that they're usually made from. And of course, make sure to check out our food page, Notice Foods, that's on YouTube, and at Notice Foods on Instagram. We have a lot of content up there teaching you how to cook without the bad foods that Dr. Wallach describes, and Dr. Glidden's 12 bad foods, all of that, all of the rules that you need to know. And we have experienced chefs and bakers who will answer the questions in those inboxes. And I've also published a book in response to some of Dr. Wallach's criticisms, including the major articles that have been written against him on the internet. So if you are a Dr. Wallach fan or a longevity distributor, I definitely recommend having this book in your toolkit. And all of my books, audiobooks, and links are available on my website, noticebooks.org.